You got to do the head bob. Yeah, there you go. There you go, Tail. You got to do the bobblehead. We got to do the bobblehead. Hello, everybody. Welcome. It is Friday, man. That means only one thing. It is live with Vince and Taylor. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Here we cover the absolute latest in pop culture. What is going on? What are people talking about? What are we interested in? What are you interested in? We are going to cover all the hot topics today. Taylor, maybe one thing we can get into quickly. I knew you are a New England Patriots fan. You are sporting your hat today.
Let all the hate roll in real quick, Vince. Just let it all roll in.
Trust me, I'm used to East Coast hate. I mean, let's just all hate everybody on the East Coast. But I got to ask you this, man. Tom Brady, I liked what Brady did. Rather than the press release and this and that, he did what you do a lot, Tyler. He took the phone and he cut the Instagram to his fans, which I felt was very, heartfelt, very sincere. I liked the way he went about it. He let the fans know first. What do you think, man? You know what I hate more than anything, Taylor? Here's what I hate. And you can appreciate this, I think, Taylor, because, Taylor, correct me if I'm wrong. You still wrestle a little, but obviously not full-time, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I think you can relate to this because right away, a lot of people are ready to make fun of, he retired a second time. He's going to unretire again. Stop that nonsense because, Taylor, you could probably talk about this better than I can. Taylor, I cannot imagine being a professional athlete. A guy like Brady, he had to start throwing a football at the age of 3.
Mm-hmm.
This is his entire life. Entire life, from peewee football to grade school to junior high to high school to college to the pros. This is his life. This is all he knows. You know, I deal with a lot of wrestlers too. Then all of a sudden, father time. And you've got to walk away from this thing that literally is your life. I cannot imagine the emotional torture that must come along with that. So I don't hold, anything against Brady because he retired once and he decided and he wanted to come back, because that's got to be traumatic for any athlete. Can you speak on that?
Yes, I can. I'll try to limit what I want to say because some of your fans decided that you didn't get a word in edgewise last week, and you might need to rein me in.
I am not here to get a word in edgewise. Taeler Hendrix is the star of this show.
Oh, please. I just thought it was funny. But anyways, here's the thing. I think there's a lot of suicide in professional sports and in entertainment industries because your fame is built on the most fickle, precarious mountaintop you could possibly imagine. 1 minute you are beloved by everyone. The next minute you could look a certain way or say something that one person doesn't like, blow it out of proportion. The next minute you're one of the most hated people in your industry. And there's such a huge disconnect with fans for that. You see this a lot with people that play in fantasy football leagues and they get all really super mad at a player. It's like, I'm pretty sure that player did not miss that throw or that catch or whatever you're mad at simply to spite you. You know what I mean? So there's a big disconnect here. And it's so hard to have such a huge paradigm shift, completely 180 your life when you have dedicated your whole entire life to that. And I think for Tom Brady, this is a very interesting time, and people can make fun of him all they want. He's laughing all the way to the bank. Like you're laughing at him does not matter. It does not affect him one bit. I think Tom Brady is a very perfect example of a recipe for success. On paper, he was not supposed to be this successful. He was not a first round draft pick. Aaron Rodgers actually went before Tom Brady. And look at all Tom Brady has been able to do. You know, when he said in his Instagram post, it takes 100% commitment, he was absolutely correct. To make it in the pro wrestling industry, to make it in the NFL, where there's only a certain amount of spots, but millions of people want to play in the NFL, you know, there's so much pressure, there's so much expectation, there's so much to be learned. And a lot of people get caught up with that, keeping up with the Joneses or a certain lifestyle, instead of focusing their 100% commitment on the game. So then what do you do when it's time to leave the game? And I think that's why we saw him retire and then come out of retirement, because he didn't really know what to do. Tom Brady, people joke about, you know, Gisele's wants of Tom Brady being his wife and how she should just be quiet and let him play football. I think it's a double-edged sword, because the reason why Tom Brady is as successful and the reason why we're talking about him today is because of his 100% commitment, regardless of if you're a Patriots fan or not, regardless of if you're a fan of the Buccaneers or not. You have to recognize and respect the 100% commitment he put into the NFL. If you are a football fan, that means he was not off partying at the clubs with everybody. He wasn't out buying the top car, you know, paying for bottle service and doing all kinds of crazy, outlandish stuff. He was studying tape. He was at home. He was one of the first people to show up. You see that the most successful people in basketball do the same thing. The most successful people in baseball, they do the same. It's a recipe for success if you truly want success and not just the lifestyle, whatever that looks like for you. Tom Brady is that. So then what do you do, Vince? What do you do when your whole life changes? Now, there's a lot of pressure for him to retire. We can talk about Tom versus time, but I think the actual reality is he does, in fact, have steam left in the tank. But does he have the proper tools to utilize what's left in his tank? And for me, if I was Tom Brady, I would want to retire on top, not just with my resume full of all these once in a lifetime accolades that nobody else has achieved. I would also, I guess I'm ambitious that way. I would also want to retire on top. And that's something that I didn't get in wrestling, but I know me as a person, if I was Tom Brady, I would want that. You know, I would want to retire after winning a Super Bowl. So maybe he should have stayed retired after last year. Or maybe he can come back to the Patriots. I don't know. I mean, it all depends on the stipulations of his Buccaneers contract. But I do think, Vince, that you are right in what do you do when everything that your life has led to is all of a sudden changed. We have so many people in wrestling and in all these different entertainment industries that don't know what to do with themselves. They don't get that instant fame, that instant shot of dopamine anymore from the attention from fame. It changes. It goes down. A lot of the people that used to talk to you all the time don't talk to you anymore because they were never for you to begin with. They were just loyal to their need of you. They don't need you anymore because you can't provide them with anything anymore, because you're not the all-star MVP Super Bowl winning quarterback anymore, because you're not in it. There is so much changing. Then you add the divorce on top of all of this, wanting to be the type of dad, but not wanting to let go of football. That's a lot. And we see this a lot in wrestling. Like, so many people think, you know, the friends are real friends in wrestling. And you know this firsthand, Vince. You've talked about it. I've talked about it. Eric Bischoff's talked about it. So many people talk about how when you're not in a certain position in wrestling, all of a sudden you don't hear from people anymore. Why? Because they think in their mind you can't do anything for them. They were loyal to their need of you and not necessarily to you. And I know that you've experienced that. I've experienced that. And I think that now that he retired, he's going to be going through a lot of these obstacles as well. And I just really hope that he is mentally prepared. I mean, he is a mentally strong player, but is he going to be a mentally strong person exiting the way that I think that he deserves? And I really do think the way he approached this was very classy, you know, because you're not anything without your fans, but you're also not anything if you don't have yourself as well. You can't lose yourself in the service of others. And I do think that this was a very classy way of him to at least go about it. What are your thoughts? Because there's a lot of tie-ins here.
Yeah, he's really lucky because let's face it, Taylor, he's gonna be able to slide right into that announce booth. It's just a matter of how quickly he wants to do it. If he wants to take, so I mean, he's got a built-in job making, 7 figures for really as long as he wants. And not everybody is that fortunate because we talk about wrestlers, and how many jobs are there really in wrestling? And, is a mid-card guy really going to be able to get an office job? And we experience that a lot in wrestling, man. That's why you see guys going on and on and on when they are really, really past their prime. And unfortunately in wrestling, you and I both know, Taylor, a lot of the guys and gals for that matter are broke. They didn't save this money. They thought this was going to be a forever thing. So a lot of them need to keep working out of necessity. I think that's a little difference with the pro athlete. They made good money. Go ahead. You don't think so?
No, I actually know so. I don't think I know. There is a lot of people in professional sports that are just as broke, if not more so, than professional wrestlers. Now, professional wrestlers, they're broke. They're broke. But the thing is, yeah, they may not have the same opportunities as Tom Brady, but similarly to Tom Brady, a lot of these wrestlers don't necessarily want those office jobs or those announcing jobs or whatever, because they still want to be the center. They still want to be the spotlight. They're not going to be satisfied. And that's a very and sometimes it's not even healthy for them to get those office jobs and all this other stuff because they're still around it. And it's like dangling everything you've ever wanted in your entire life, your childhood dream, dangling right in front of you, just out of reach. That causes so much toxicity within so many wrestlers that still want to be the guy or the girl, and they're around it, but they're not necessarily in the middle of it. They're not a part of the status quo anymore, And the same thing could possibly end up playing out for Tom Brady as well. Even if he gets that cushiony announcing job, that might not be fulfilling for him. That might not be what he truly wants. But it becomes a matter of what do you want versus what you need, and what's the smartest decision for you, both for your health, both physical, emotional, and mental, as well as for your overall well-being. Pro athletes in the NFL are just as much broke as wrestlers, if not more so, because they over leverage themselves. You see, rookies trying to keep up with the lifestyles of veterans instead of keeping to their means. They're over leveraging themselves. They're overextending themselves. It's the same thing in acting. It's the keeping up with the Joneses, basically. And they have agents. Again, we've talked about this on my podcast, and I think maybe a little bit here. Most of them do not know how to read their contracts, Vince. I talked about this on my podcast when the whole Mandy Rose situation came up. A lot of NFL players make a big mistake in letting their agent also be their power of attorney. Once that happens, the agent is in control of all of their money plus their contract, and you have, as the player, you don't know what they're doing with your money. Some of them get robbed blind. And it's legal because you gave them power of attorney. Yeah. They're making decisions for you. They're making bad investments for you and all this other stuff. When they're an agent, they're not somebody that knows real estate. They're probably not somebody that knows how to work a stock portfolio and negotiate good sponsorship deals and everything else. A lot of these people are broke. I have had Super Bowl champions on my podcast talking about the rookie wall that you hit because the NFL season's longer than college. There are so many different things that come at a pro athlete, especially in the NFL. And there's all these expectations without actually being taught how to be a successful player in the NFL. And the thing that I think you were started to touch on, but then kind of sheared off to a different point that you wanted to make, was if you work, say, as a doctor, your career as a doctor is far longer than the career of a professional athlete, which means even if you earn less than a professional athlete, your earning opportunity is more because you have a longer opportunity. As professional athletes, we see this all the time. I mean, there were so many concussions that I was not prepared for. All right. There was injuries I was not prepared for. This happens all the time. You don't always get a say in when your career ends. Tom Brady is not only is he the GOAT, as people like to say now in society, but he's also an anomaly. He's not the rule, he's the exception. Okay, most people don't get to play into their 40s. Most professional athletes, they get traded or cut before they're even 30. So if you think about, they left college at like 21, 22, maybe even they didn't even go to college. That gives them less than less than a 10-year window sometimes. If you're lucky, you get 15 to 20 years. But realistically speaking, how many players last that long in the NFL?
Yeah.
And we see that a lot in wrestling too. It's in boxing, it's in UFC, it's in all of these contact sports. That's why the richest NFL player, do you know who it is, Vince? Anybody watching, do you know, without Googling, do you guys know who the richest former NFL player actually is?
Oh, so it's a former NFL player?
Yeah.
Or Tom Brady?
No.
Who is it?
Not even close. Does anybody watching right now with the brand live know without going on handy dandy Google?
I'm looking for comments. If anybody knows, throw it out there. As a matter of fact, let me mention, since we got started, man, if you guys are enjoying this show, if you guys want to support Russo's brand, if you guys want to support me, you want to support Taylor, feel free to send a donation, send a super sticker, become part of the show. If you send a donation or a super sticker, I will pull your question or comment up on the screen. Just like I'm going to show an example, my good friend Clive says here, Brett Favre?
No. Good thought, though. Good guess.
This is another brand member that I know. Kevin Maury says Terry Bradshaw.
No, actually.
Not Terry Bradshaw.
Good guess, though. All right, I will not leave you in suspense. Do you have one guess, Vince, for the richest net worth NFL player of all time?
Jeff Lane says Emmitt Smith.
No, but very good guess, Jeff. All right, guys, it is actually I hate when I do this, but I mispronounce his last name all the time. It's actually Roger Staubach. He played a career of 11 seasons with the Cowboys. Yeah.
Well, wait a minute now. Wait a minute. Are you comparing the dollars he made back then to what it would be worth today?
No, I am talking about his overall net worth. Overall, he beats out Tom Brady. He beats out Aaron Rodgers. He beats out Patrick Mahomes.
But is that just football or is that everything else? Because he became a very successful businessman. So are we talking about his net worth today or just as a football player?
Well, if you think about it, Vince, when you're an NFL player or pro athlete, you are a business person, whether you like it or know that or not. You are a business. You are your own brand onto yourself, who then lends out your talent and your livelihood and your life to a company, right? But what a lot of people don't know is Roger actually was working in real estate while he was in the NFL on the off season.
No, that I didn't.
Yeah. And what he did was he took a lot of the NFL money and bought investments that would grow over time with him so that he had something for life after the NFL, which is something we do not teach pro athletes, and we should. Yeah. I'm going to give a subtle plug out to a book that I helped with a couple years ago. It's called Smart Money, How Pro Athletes Don't Go Broke. I highly recommend you check it out. It's on Amazon. It is very affordable on amazon.com/ebooks. I am not the author, but I did help with this book with a lot of information that I was able to contribute. And it talks about this exact stuff that we're talking about right now, Vince, because a lot of these NFL people, like even Tom Brady got taken for a ride with the whole NFT scandal. He lost so much money. So did Giselle. This is the thing that they don't teach people. So if you think about it, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, all of these athletes today have a lot more business opportunities with sponsorships and all kinds of things today. So they are a business, but yet they're not handling their money as smart as Roger did. Roger is worth, his net worth today is over $600 million.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I'm not surprised because I just was thinking about during their career. Roger Staubach was a very, very smart man. I remember, I was watching Roger Staubach when I was a kid. This is before your time, but he was a very, very, very smart man. So looking at it that way, that doesn't surprise me at all.
And he did a lot of the same habits of Tom Brady. A lot of people don't realize that. He studied tape all the time. He was a 16th round draft pick. And he played through injuries and did all these really awesome things to ended up being worth $600 million. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers is worth $200 million today. Patrick Mahomes, $40 million. Let's see. Eli Manning is worth $150 million. Wow. And Dak Prescott is worth $70 million. And Tom Brady right now, I will say this though, I don't know if this is including what he lost from that NFT debacle, but he is supposedly worth $250 million. And as we know, when he was with the Patriots, he was not getting paid as lot as the others because he wanted more tools and more people for the team. So he took pay cuts, whereas people like Aaron Rodgers were getting paid top dollar. But you can see what top dollar has done for them versus what somebody like Roger Staubach was able to do even before he retired in 1979, which became official in 1980. Like, I think that's cool.
What about Taylor? You got a fan here. Bid Moon just donated $1.99. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Taylor, have a good weekend. You are absolutely great. Taylor, a lot of people don't know this because he's been wearing the same hat for about the last 10 years. Jeff Lane's net worth is about $50 million.
Woo!
But he's been wearing the same hat forever. Can you imagine this, Taylor? This is a man who has very little hair. I want you to picture this. Very little hair. Been wearing the same hat for a decade. Can you imagine the stench coming from this, Taylor?
I don't want to know. I've been in enough locker room, wrestling locker room.
Let's move on. Now Jeff's going to put a comment in here. Oh, I only wear the hat on the show. I only wear the hat on the show. I guarantee you. See, he just said I have 3 of the same hat. You see what I mean? All right, Taylor, let's keep the sport theme going.
Yeah. Because, really quick, Vince. I think we forgot to mention the fact. I just want to plug this guy because in Massachusetts, we used to sell "In Brady We Trust" merchandise. Like, we still love Brady even after he left because he didn't actually want to leave. That was a managerial debacle. So I just want to throw this out there. 7 Super Bowl championship wins, 7 out of 10 times in the Super Bowl he won. He is a 3-time MVP. He's the only NFL player to win a title in 3 different decades. He's thrown a touchdown to over 35 different players. And he's also thrown touchdowns that's postseason. In the regular season, he's thrown TDs to over 96 different players. He also holds the record for most games played by a quarterback, which is well over 300. He has the most pass yards and all kinds of other really crazy cool stuff. So I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah,
Tom Brady.
I got to bring this up because, Taylor, I've never heard of this before. Josh has a washable hat cage to keep his hat washed and formed. Now you are a wardrobe aficionado, a fashion aficionado. Have you ever heard of a washable hat cage?
No. So Josh, hook us up with a link so we can actually see this because this hat is misshapen from me washing it. I
would stick Jeff's entire head in the hat cage. His entire head, wearing the hat and everything. All right, Taylor, let's move on. Again, guys, if you enjoy Taylor, man, Taylor's got the fans, bro. Feel free to cheer, donation, super sticker. We'll pull your comments right up here on the screen. Also, guys, if you like what you're watching, like us on YouTube. That helps. Jeff says we got to keep the algorithms going. All right, let's stay with sports entertainment.
Yes. Here we go.
WrestleMania.
Lead the way.
WrestleMania. Taylor, I got to be honest with you. I think you and I are a lot like this. I could give 2 craps about WrestleMania. I could care less. I'm not going to watch WrestleMania. I'm not going to sit in front of my television on a weekend, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, whatever it is. I have no interest in WrestleMania at all. Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, I could care less. Here's what impresses me. And I saw it with my own eyes several years ago. Maybe it was 6, 7 years ago now. I don't even remember. A couple of years ago, I got paid to do this convention during WrestleMania weekend. It was the WrestleMania that was out in San Jose. And I know there's going to be
WrestleCon.
there's going to be 1 million people here that are going to tell me what WrestleMania it was. Okay. I got to tell you, Taylor, I knew this going in, but to actually see it with my own eyes, I was floored. As far as promotion, advertising, PR, branding, the WWE literally took over that entire city. I mean, you could not go in a men's restroom without not seeing WrestleMania plastered on the wall. I am more impressed than this than anything else. And I worked for that company. This is what's more impressive to me. The brand that they have turned WrestleMania into, the worldwide brand, just that name across the entire world and the entire globe, and people flying in from all over the world. Literally, you can put it in the same conversation as the Super Bowl. You literally can. And I mean, Taylor, I know you are all about branding. Man, what they've done with WrestleMania, it doesn't matter who's on the card. It's not about it. Taylor and I could headline the card. It doesn't even matter. The fact that it's WrestleMania, they've done a tremendous job with that. Now, I know you know how important branding is. How do you think they've made this a household name?
It's something that wrestlers today just don't understand. And I think it's an ego thing. It's a narcissistic thing. Like, they think WWE's success is because of their individual talents, but it's not. And that's why I say the business owes you nothing, because it'll go on with or without you. Like, any person that's been let go or left WWE, the WWE has gone on without them in one way or another, you know? And so you're right. It is all about branding. It really is. And I think it's amazing. Anybody, even if you're not a wrestling fan, like my mother does not watch wrestling. She does not like wrestling. Okay. She knows what WrestleMania is. And I think that is a cultural pop culture thing. Like, even if you do not, there's still people that think the WWE is the WWF. That's how out of touch some people are, but they know WrestleMania. And that's such a great success story of overcoming the odds, because everybody laughed at Vince McMahon when he pulled out of the territories to create the WWF, much to the chagrin of Vince Sr. And, you know, there was all of this controversy over WrestleMania. Oh, it's going to be a flop. Who do you think you are? Who's Paul Orndorff? Like, all this stuff. But then you look at how it has come about. It's amazing. And they need that branding. Like, wrestlers should be thankful for that branding. Like, to be able to say you were a performer live in a match on WrestleMania. Not many people can say that. Even more people play in the NFL than there are people that can say that they main evented a WrestleMania.
You know, I got to tell you, man, and people may not believe this, but this is the God honest truth, man. From a wrestling perspective, because I wrote some WrestleManias, Taylor, to me, it was just another show. Like, we you know, when we're doing WrestleMania, we're actually thinking about Raw, you know, the next night. I mean,
you have to.
Yeah, it was just there was so many shows and so much writing to do. WrestleMania to me was just another show. But
yeah, it is though, when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, it's the biggest pay-per-view of the year. It's the flagship pay-per-view that everything is built around. It's the branding. But after, if you peel all those layers of that onion away, so to speak, it is just another show. It's a show. It's a spectacle that has to lead to the night after. It has to.
Yeah.
And there has to be that continuity, or else what is WrestleMania? If it doesn't have that continuity, like you just said, then it doesn't mean anything. And if it didn't mean anything, then the branding wouldn't matter either, because if it meant nothing, nobody would show up.
Yeah.
And that's where branding and what you were saying of it just being another show comes into play. And I think those two attitudes are what have led WrestleMania to be what it is today.
Yeah.
And to me, that is all about branding. And I think that it is ingenious because no matter what any other company does, everybody will always know around the world what WrestleMania is. And I've been to many WrestleCons.
Yeah.
I loved it, Vince.
Yeah.
Not only did I make like buku bucks, but like also I got to meet so many fans from all over the world. I got to speak different languages with them.
I'm hitting you with a timeout. I'm hitting you with a timeout. Hold the phone. I've been to a couple of wrestling conventions. You know, I have stopped, Taylor, because I can't. Wrestling fans today are not the same as they were when I was in the business. I can't stomach them. I don't want to be around them. Taylor, I got to be honest with you. We're going off script here.
Oh no!
And you listen. Look me in the eye.
Okay,
say, Vince, I'm going to be 1,000% honest with you.
To my ability, I'm going to be 1,000% honest with you.
Okay. Listen, I was the biggest advocate for female wrestling. I had great relationships with the females I worked for in every single company. I really felt, Taylor, it was like a father-daughter thing. It really was. It really was. And when I used to go to these conventions and I would see like Angelina and Velvet and all these, you know, beautiful, beautiful women, great athletes that I worked with. And now the Scavoso. You know what a Scavoso is? It's an Italian term for this icky, sweaty, black shirt, neck beard, like just horrible animal. They want the photo op. All of a sudden, they got the arm around Velvet, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, how do these girls handle? Like, seriously, how is Velvet not screaming at the top of their lungs? That grosses me out. I all the time, these guys that have never been hugged, never been kissed, now get the photo op with Taeler Hendrix. Taylor, come on, that's got to be a little gross. Be honest with me.
Okay, here it goes, right? There are people that try to take liberties. I can't read. What does this say here?
This is Ty Salters with a $5 donation.
Thank you.
He says, you ever watch Cobra Kai? It takes place around 30 years after the Karate Kid movies. Yes.
No spoilers. No spoilers, though, because I'm a few episodes behind, and I'm not happy that Netflix is nixing it.
All right, listen,
okay,
the big
back
creep,
to...
I'm talking black shirt. I'm talking you visibly can see the stains under the arm, the neck beard, the greasy hair. The guy smells from literally half a mile away, and now he wants a photo op. We get this beautiful, giving, smiling Taylor. Now he does the photo op. Taylor, come on. What goes through your mind?
All right. Well, in the earlier stages of my career, probably the first 10 years I was in the business, I let people do that to me. And then people were taking...
Listen, I hate to interrupt you. How quickly, when it was over, did you jump in the shower? Like, come on, like immediately?
No, because I usually was booked for where I had to be in a bunch of different places. So like WrestleCon, I have a set time here. Then me being direction dumb, I have to find out where I'm supposed to be next, because I would have Queens of Combat. I would have Ring of Honor. I would have appearances for both as champion, as whatever. And then all these other obligations and whomever else booked me. So I'm always like, but I'm a very clean person. I'm actually a germaphobe, surprisingly, because you've seen me lick chairs in wrestling. So yeah, I'm actually a germaphobe. I think that's why I got along very well with Rhino. We'd be like elbows.
All right, so walk me through there. You say at the beginning it was this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then a lot of people, I don't know, it seemed like the more scandalous I dressed for my gimmick, because obviously that's not like what I am in real life, it seemed like the more they used that as an excuse, and even other people in the business would treat me a different way. And it seemed like a lot of people started taking liberties or making rumors. And a lot of that started around the time that I was wearing more revealing gothic type of dresses for my gimmick. And I thought that was very interesting. And I think that's when I started to really understand what the business actually was. And the reason why I'm saying this at all, it's not me just blabbering, there's a purpose. It was when those realizations started to dawn on me that I started going like this. I'm trying to do that in the frame. So what I would do is I would just put my hand out like this onto the person's crux, like here, so that if anybody tried to ever take liberties with me or my body again, I could push them out of the way and or
there you
to
go.
the nose.
There you go. Yes.
And you actually see a lot more women doing that today, but not a lot of women were doing that back then. And I mean, I had one person like as the photo was happening, this is why I don't do selfies anymore. The person wanted a selfie with me because they were alone and they weren't with like other friends. And instead of wanting some random person to touch their phone, I was like, okay, that's fine. You can take a selfie with me. Well, then they like kind of like kissed my cheek or whatever. And I was kind of just like,
was that Jeff Lane?
No.
Oh, come on.
So yeah, I don't do selfies anymore. I'll always ask another fan, would you mind please taking this photo for me? And we will gladly return the favor for yours when you're next up in line and stuff. But for the most part,
that's such a tough position because, you know, like I said, man, I would watch, you know, Velvet and them, and it's like, you want to be nice. You know, you want to be nice. They're paying their money. You want to be nice, but man, that's just a tough position, I think, for the females, man.
But Vince, I mean, it's you kind of have to understand that it is what it is, and it's not going to change unless more people decide that it's in their benefit to change, which sounds narcissistic, but it is. But I do have to say, in my fans' defense, I legit, and you can take this however you want, I have said this on so many of my podcasts and my YouTube channel and my blog. I literally believe that I have the best fan base, bar none, in the entire pro wrestling industry. My fans are positive as heck. They are loyal. They are savage. They are awesome. They are unique, strange, unusual, respectful, and amazing.
Respectful. That's the key word.
Yeah. And you know, I've had other people, a few people in the business be like, Taylor, how did you do that? Like, you'll just have a tweet that says good morning and you'll get like tweets and comments. And I'm like, well, I think it's because they saw that I was being my most authentic self. I was being free with my authenticity. And I think they appreciated that instead of there being a facade, a front, so to speak. And I think they gravitated towards that mutual respect because I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't have fans that saw me through my darkest times when I couldn't even believe in myself or even look at myself, and having them and them rooting for everything that I'm doing. You kind of get this purpose for yourself, but also purpose for others. And to me, I was like, wow, I am always going to go to bat for my fan base. Like the Taylor Army, that's what they named themselves. Like, they are amazing. And I'll tell you what, the Taylor Army has never done creepy stuff to me. Like, they are awesome. And sometimes they'll call out other people being creepy. Like, to me, they're just they're so savage and positive and amazing. Like, it's
Have you ever heard about the Jeff Lane Soldier?
No.
Jeff Lane's got one fan, so he don't have an army. He's got one soldier. All right, Taylor, you gotta smart me up on this. I know this is your wheelhouse, not mine at all.
Oh, okay. I know where we're going.
I know Jeff is into this. What is all this hullabaloo? That's a fun word, isn't it, Taylor? Hullabaloo.
Yes, let's bring back old words like floozy.
Let's
hullabaloo, buku bucks.
What is this hullabaloo with James Gunn and the DC universe? I know all the comic book fans are talking about this. I am totally out of the loop on this one. What's going on?
This is kind of how I feel about society right now. I don't even think society knows what's going on. I don't think DC really knows what's going on. But I think that's because there was such a big disconnect. Like, anybody watching who's a DC Comics fan, you're going to know what I'm talking about, okay? I think if you were just a casual fan, you are lost because you had the DCEU, okay? The DC Extended Universe. And it's too complicated. You have 3 different Supermans, 3 different Batmans, all of this stuff. They're not cooperating with the actual DC. They're outside over here. DC's here. And you're expecting all these casual fans to go through that hullabaloo.
Forget it. You lost me. You lost me. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
There was too much craziness. There was too many story arcs, too many disconnects. You have
now,
Robert Pattinson.
Obviously, I hate to interrupt you, but obviously the idea is to make more and more and more and more money, correct?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
But I think with that, while it creates jobs, it also affects the overall product. If you're just trying to push out, like the assembly line. You know what I mean? Like if you're trying to just push.
Let's put it in wrestling terms. Okay. Yes. It's Raw being 3 hours. Raw is a 2-hour show. They took the 3rd hour for the money, but they've compromised the product. It's the same thing, correct?
Yeah, it's a quality control issue, in my opinion.
Okay. Yes.
Definitely. It's like the beginning stages of Henry Ford building the Model T or whatever. And look how far we've come, but we still have issues. It's a quality control problem, right?
No, hold on. Now, you got to answer this because Travis with a $2 donation.
Hi.
I got to ask you this question because Travis paid $2.
Okay, what is it? Because I can't read it. It's too small.
Was it Vince McMahon who kissed you in the selfie?
No, I never had any issues with Vince McMahon at all. I actually find his business mind fascinating. I am very much into business and learning how to run a business and be a business tycoon and all these different things. I love educating myself on that. I never had any issues with Vince McMahon.
That would have been a great story though if it had been, Travis. Great. Oh, now get me back to this James Gunn gimmick. So they've compromised the product by putting too much out there, confusing to the casuals. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, because you have the Snyder cut, you have the Ayer cut, you've got James Gunn, you've got a regime change that became James Gunn and Peter Safran, who are now co-CEOs for DC. All right, so when you have one regime changing to a different one, it's kind of like the WWE. When Vince left and Triple H took over, you saw all kinds of changes made, people being brought back, expenditure after expenditure after expenditure. Now Vince is back. There's much less spending. There's all kinds of uncertainty. That's what's going on in DC. So right before the regime change, we talked about last week with all the issues surrounding Black Adam, Dwayne Johnson, and Henry Cavill as Superman. Well, the original management said no to an after credits scene highlighting Henry Cavill's Superman with a potential send-off of another film being Black Adam versus Superman. Well, the new people didn't like that when the regime change happened before James Gunn. See how confusing this already is?
It is. So I'm trying to follow you, but there's a lot of people and a lot of names. But go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So there was a different regime change during the time that they were filming Black Adam. Okay. So then they went to the new CEO, who's no longer here, guys. So we'll keep track. Okay. They then pitched their vision for Black Adam, the DC universe, and Superman. That new person said, okay, let's do it. This ruffled a lot of feathers that were potentially going to take over, but nobody knew that yet, okay? So now you already got attitude and kind of a rift, plus a regime change. So then they have and highlight Henry Cavill as Superman in the end post-credits, which originally was not wanted. You have this standoff with the potential for Black Adam being Dwayne Johnson versus Superman being Henry Cavill, right? Well, then the new regime change happens where now you have 2 co-CEOs taking over everything. And this is after we have already had a super massive buku bucks merger of Warner Brothers and Discovery. Okay, so now there's all these decisions happening, and not all of them were James Gunn and Peter Safran, but now they're in control. They have a DC plan that is going to really take form in 2025, but they're already in the cusp of it now. And so they want to get rid of, scratch a bunch of stuff and start over clean. And they're not going to focus on the DCEU, meaning the DC extended universe that's going like this.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's like being in a 90s disco with all the glow sticks. Like it's just so unrealistic. Okay, so here are the things, if you were a DC fan, that you really should know, and can kind of be excited about. But with that being said, I will get into that, and I also want to address the controversy that's come out because of this.
Oh, now
So
before you get on though, before
yeah.
you get on with what you just explained, in your opinion, is that a good decision and the right decision?
Yes and no. It is good to get new management in there. If old management isn't working, you have a merger that was so expensive, you have to cut projects and cut things and cut ties, but then you have more expenditures happening, like we discussed last week with Black Adam going over budget by, I think, at least $20 million. We're not talking about chump change, people. Like, a lot of people won't make $20 million in a lifetime. All right. Plus all the implications of scrapping things like Batgirl and all this stuff. So yeah, it was a good decision to do a complete overhaul of the CEOs, the COOs, and everything like that. So that was a good decision. Scrapping some certain projects, to me, didn't make a whole lot of sense. But if you're going to be a person that wants to bring your vision to life, then yeah, that's the appropriate way to go. Because if you have stuff that doesn't fit in, that's money that you're not putting towards the overall new image. It's like rebranding.
Right.
If you're going to rebrand the WWE, you're going to expect to spend a ton of money. And you're not going to want to have the old leadership with a rebranding unless they're all for the rebranding and they're on board with your vision, you know?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
So then where were you going to go with that? Go ahead.
So we have several controversies from this, and a lot of DC fans will know exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of people were very excited to see Henry Cavill back as Superman. All right, he has a huge female audience. He's got he has a rapport with DC fans as Superman. Okay, what's going on is they want a completely new Superman. So people are upset because they already hyped the possibility, but they're not acknowledging the fact that the hype was done not by the new co-CEOs. So that's where fans aren't really being logical. They're being a little bit more emotional because they were excited. So that's understandable. But you also have to put the excitement aside and understand from a business perspective what's going on. All right. That was not even originally approved by the original people. It was only approved by the people that came after the original people, but then were taken over by new people. It's the domino effect, basically, like playing Jenga, piling on top, piling on top, piling on top. So what the new plan for DC's universe is going to focus on is 2 major films a year and 2 major TV shows for streaming on HBO Max. What does that say?
Tony just cheered 10. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tony, yes.
And I think this is a much more sustainable platform and plan that is where you can actually focus on the tiny, intricate details of these story arcs instead of pumping out stuff just to take people's money and not really paying homage to the actual characters, their origin stories, and where you want to go. It's kind of like when WWE all of a sudden now has like a pay-per-view every month. It's so watered down. You don't have a lot of those meaningful storylines that made you want to pay your hard-earned money to go sit in those seats.
There's so much that nothing gets over.
Exactly. And you don't have that build up, that longevity where you're like, oh man, I can't wait to see this match yet. You weren't having that as much in DC with all of the extended universe. You were getting really cool movies, but there was that disconnect that I keep referencing. So now they're dumbing it down and they're going to put all their focus into 2 major films a year, which splits the year in half, which is really good with a small little buffer window. And you're getting 2 shows. Now, I really do feel that they could do maybe 4 shows for streaming and 2 to 3 movies, but I really do like that they're dumbing it down to really highlight their focus and save money, especially in the midst of a recession. And what this is going to do is give you more clear-cut, defined story arcs in these movies and having the movies actually mean something. Like, think of the success of Spider-Man No Way Home, for example. All right, I know that's not DC, so don't be coming at me, guys. Like, I'm ready for you. But look at how well Spider-Man No Way Home delivered. It became the 6th highest grossing film of all time until recently, with the emergence of the huge profit of Avatar: The Way of Water, which now became the 4th highest grossing film. Okay. If Spider-Man No Way Home could do that, and all the marketing and the branding and everything they did with Tom Holland's Spider-Man and all the really good stuff that they gave you from actual comic books, think about what DC is going to be able to do now for their characters in a very similar manner, because that is where DC has been lacking in comparison to Marvel. And so this is going to be very good.
That's what I was just going to ask you. That was my next question to you. So has Marvel stayed pretty pure?
I think so. And their working relationship right now with Disney Studios has given them a bigger funding instead of just out of their own pocket. And it gives them different streaming avenues to give you more of these really good shows. Like they have so many like original content streaming shows as well as films, and to me that's exciting. Like I don't know if a lot of you people know this, but while I was in Ring of Honor, a lot of people made fun of me because I said I wanted to be in Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and they were like but my goal in wrestling was to be Madam Hydra. And I really feel like I did that. I had the snake skin, dragon scales, and all this really cool stuff on my gear. My gimmick was influenced by that. I had one of the top selling t-shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees at one point, and it was Hydra inspired. She was one of the real antagonists of Captain America and a former leader of Hydra. So I thought it would be so cool to be in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? Everybody made fun of me. But here's the thing, Vince. Guess who I was talking to in my emails? Some of the casting people for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So it really just goes to show you the potential that Marvel has with looking at different types of stars with different audiences from different industries, and the loyalty they put into their content and their ability to see a big vision for themselves. And I think that's really cool. And from my perspective, I think it's really cool to overcome other people's limiting beliefs and them trying to hold you down and make you believe you ain't shizit, when in reality there's so much potential there if you tap into it and stay true to who you are. Yeah. And I think for DC, this is a perfect opportunity for them to restart and try to stay true to what DC originally was, when it was created. And that's what I think they want to do. Now, some people are really happy about this, Vince, obviously, but some people are like, why are you going into such obscure characters? But if you think about it, none of those people were saying that about Marvel. So I think some people just really want to hate. But there is some potential here. So I'm going to break it down in case you don't know, because I believe Jeff and I were talking about this. So James Gunn is the CEO with Peter Safran now for DC Comics. They are focusing solely on the DCU, guys. Forget about the extended universe. They want nothing to do with it. They're just focusing on DCU. All right. They announced their plan, which will be in full force by 2025, and it's going to be the Chapter 1 for DCU, and it's going to be Gods and Monsters. That is the ongoing theme that you are going to see from now all the way through 2025, especially in 2025. So this is what you can expect. You're going to see a Superman movie called Superman Legacy. With obviously a brand new Henry Cavill. James Gunn specifically addressed this point with all the hate he was getting online, which is why at the beginning of this, I made sure to mention that there was a reason for that. And his excuse, or his response, I will say, because some people feel it's a response, others said it's a complete excuse. That was a decision made by the prior regime, the prior CEO. We are now the CEOs, and our directors have a vision for what they want for Superman, and it is not Henry Cavill. It's as simple as that. He was not cast to be our new Superman. He was somebody that the prior regime okayed after the regime before them said no. So that was basically his response. The directors and all the people involved with the new Superman, they want a clean slate. That's what the DCU now is, a clean slate. They want a different Superman. They want longevity with their Superman. So that's why you're not having Henry Cavill. Next, you're going to see another movie called The Brave and the Bold. And this is from... okay, I'm going to keep going. Then we're going to have another movie, which is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And then you're going to have another film, which is The Authority. And then after this is where you're going to start getting into TV shows. So we're going to have a Swamp Thing movie, and then we're going to have Creature Commandos, which is going to be an animated TV series. Then you're going to have Waller, which is going to be another TV series. And then you're going to have Lanterns, which is going to be another series. And then you're going to have Booster Gold, which is another series. And then finally, rounding out the television, you were going to have Paradise Lost. All right. So they are definitely going into the depths of DC to bring some of this out. I mean, Lanterns, they're dating it all the way back to 1959 here. Wait a second.
That's a lot of content. That's over.
Yeah.
All those plans are over how long a period of time?
Well, okay, I did the breakdown of this because they actually gave us of when we're going to start seeing this shift. So let me see here. Let me just find it. I have so many little notes and things about when, what particular Swamp Thing they're going to be referencing, where they got Waller from, and all this other stuff. So I'm trying to look at my super tiny notes here.
That is,
okay, so we're going to start seeing this happening with Shazam 2. Shazam 2 is going to lead you into the Flash movie, which is going to reset everything for DC and leads right into an unrelated Blue Beetle movie. And the Blue Beetle movie is going to give you Aquaman 2, which is already setting the tone for the new DCU. And then from Aquaman 2 is you're getting your first new Superman.
Wow.
This is going to be the big project for those co-CEOs, of Gunn and Safran. So that's what it's going to be. So you got Shazam 2. Then you're going to have The Flash, which has its own set of controversies. Then you're going to have Blue Beetle, Aquaman 2, and then finally Superman. Once you have that Superman film, that is when you are going to see the huge paradigm shift into the complete clean slate. You're already getting the clean slate starting with The Flash, but it's really going to take its toll once it gets to Superman because that's their first huge project. Now, in case you guys were a huge fan of Robert Pattinson as Batman, fear not. While he's not the Batman for the DCU, which was made very clear, he is in fact still going to be Batman, but he will be not a part of the DCU. He is going to be a part of what James Gunn calls a crime saga. That is exactly the wording used. So they are putting a defined disconnect between the actual DCU and the chaotic, crazy DCEU that was just out of control. You will still have the original director, Matt Reeves. The Batman 2 has officially been re-greenlit because there was a lot of back and forth about that over the last year. And it will officially be coming out on October 3rd, 2025. So you will still have Robert Pattinson's Batman. They are promising a very obscure villain in there. And so that's still going to happen, but do not expect him to be the Batman for the DCU. All reports are suggesting that the Batman for the DCU will continue to be Ben Affleck because he was featured in Aquaman 2. But since they want a clean slate, I'm wondering, like, why are you going to keep as Batman, but not Henry Cavill? So I think, again, there's a little bit of a rift after Black Adam, but nobody wants to say that. I can only guess. But if you're going to keep Ben Affleck as Batman, why would you not want to keep the same Superman as well?
Yeah. Jeff said, I can see them years down the road doing an Infinite Crisis movie and bringing Cavill back as the gray-haired, older Superman.
That would actually be a great idea, Jeff. I know that they were, there's another actor that wants to do that exact thing. So it's really funny that you brought that up. Tom, I forget his last name. He was Superman in, the show was so good. It's like everything from my childhood in Smallville. Tom something. If anybody knows his last name, he wants to come back as Superman and be like the gray-haired Superman. He actually did say that somewhere on social media or in an interview.
Well, they're all over it. Jeff's all over it, man. Tom Welling.
That's it. Yes.
Clive. Thank you, Clive. Travis FDY's got enough $5 donation again from Travis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. He's got a question for you.
Yep.
Do either of you have an interest in the Batgirl movie that they are not releasing? I want to see it because Keaton is in it. What's your take on that, Taylor?
Yes, I did some research on that again today. I've reported about that quite a few times on my podcast and my YouTube channel. So recently the new management has actually said that the Batgirl movie was unwatchable. That was the word used. Now, I have questions, Vince. I have some legitimate questions.
Like I would just love to know unwatchable in what sense?
That's one question. Another question is, how did you not figure out it was unwatchable, considering how far into the post-production process you were? Not the current management, but prior management, right? Not to mention the fact that the film was over budget, just like Black Adam. And unfortunately, at least with Black Adam, it was a theatrical release, where theatrical releases make a lot more money globally, as opposed to the streaming movies that we saw during the pandemic. But Batgirl was not going to be a theater release. That was straight for streaming for HBO.
Was there ever an explanation of exactly what they meant by that?
No, it just said that they said Batgirl was unwatchable. Now, a lot of people felt like it was because it was a female lead. I am a female, and I am telling you, I hate that excuse. Stop buying into that. There has been plenty of films based around a female that were very successful. Okay, don't buy into that narrative. I do not think that this film was canceled and scrapped because it was a female lead. Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, especially when she's Oracle, in my opinion, is awesome. She is such a character that has a lot of depth. So there is so much they could have done. I do not think it was because it was a female lead. All right. I believe it was a budget issue. I believe it was a casualty of the merger, and I believe that it just was not in line with newer management. And now you have the most new management who's now in control of everything and the clean slate saying it's unwatchable. So you have them saying it's unwatchable on top of the bad strike against them, the fact that it was over budget, just like Black Adam. They spent a lot more on that project than they originally wanted to. And it was already in the post-production stages when they decided to scrap it, plus that expensive merger and the fact that it wasn't a theatrical release. There were so many things working against that film, in my opinion. I think that's what ultimately led to its downfall. I do not think they would have scrapped that film as easily if they would have thought that the lead was their vision for Barbara Gordon, number one. Number two, if it didn't go so drastically over budget because it was a meant for streaming film. I think if they would have figured out those two issues, and for whatever reason they think it's unwatchable, we probably would have still had the Batgirl film, especially because it was in post-production already by the time they canceled it. So they're going to use it as a tax write-off, which, I mean, a lot of studios do. It's not an uncommon thing. But you have to think, would this film have made them money, or was it better for them to use it as a tax write-off? Because if you're already so far over budget, then you have to make more than double what the film costs just to make a profit, because you have to factor in taxes and marketing. It just wasn't going to most likely do that. So that's my thoughts on Batgirl.
Wow. All right, listen.
I would have liked to see it, though.
We are going. I wanted to talk a little bit of Squid Games, but we're out of time because I wanted to get into it a little deeper. We'll talk about it next week because it's going to be an ongoing story. That, on Netflix, there was the series Squid Games, and now they're making an actual game out of it. There's a lot of controversy going on around that. We will discuss that next week. But for now, Taylor, tell everybody where they could see your podcast, where they could read your books. Let them know everything that's going on.
All right, guys, we'll talk about Squid Game next week, Squid Game The Challenge. You can find me on YouTube with youtube.com/Taeler Hendrix. I do Motivation Mondays, Q&A Wednesdays, where I answer your fan questions. Hit the thumbs up button on my Q&A Wednesday videos. Comment below those with your question to potentially be featured not just on my YouTube channel, but also on my podcast, Talks with Taeler Hendrix, which is featured on russosbrand.com with Channel Attitude. You can find me on instagram.com/Taeler Hendrix ROH, Ring of Hendrix, and also on Twitter with @Taeler_Hendrix. I am sorry they're not the same. There was fake me's on the platform before the real me was. And of course, you can find my children's books on Amazon.com/ebooks. You've got It's Not Easy Being a Sloth, A Fish with a Wish is Trish, Nosy Rosie, and The Secret Surprise, and of course, possibly my favorite, The Hopeful Spider by Taeler Hendrix.
Wow, guys, there you go. You just got an hour of the very, very talented Taeler Hendrix, which I learned so much from you every single. Even though I'm lost with the DC, there's too much going on for an old.
Yeah, that was such a big topic, Vince. Like there was so much more we had to talk about as far as that, because there was so much controversy and so much flipping back and forth. Like there's a whole extra page of notes about the DC issue that it could have been a whole nother hour if we had wanted to.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it more as we work closer and closer to the movies. All right, guys, that is it, man. We thank you all for watching, man. Guys, if you can go to YouTube and just hit the like button, we really, really appreciate that. It helps us with algorithms and all that stuff. Guys, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week.